stability, clarity of policies vital for economies to thrive. UN Security Council calls for pauses in Gaza fighting. Hello, good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brendan Lepal and you're watching World Today. Political stability and clarity in policies are vital for any economy to thrive. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said while clarity and consistency in policies are required, the effective implementation of policies also plays a vital role in wooing investors.
I think political stability is very critical, but clarity of policies is what is required. Consistent, clear policies, whether it's energy or economic program or investments, etc. Then, of course, effective implementation.
What does this region mean?
According to Datuk Seri Anwar, Malaysia is very fortunate to have drawn investments from China, the United States, Europe, and also from the region that have exceeded expectations.
I think we are on the right track to propel the economy in the country in the next few years. Very ambitious, and I think based on the track record in the last 6-7 months, we can achieve that.
The Premier also reiterated that a country must remain tough when it comes to policy implementation and tackling corruption, especially against the way of doing business that squanders public funds to enrich those in power. He stressed that he has made clear his stand when it comes to corruption. The Malaysian government and Google today announced a strategic collaboration to create inclusive growth opportunities for more Malaysians and homegrown companies in the fast-growing digital economy. In a statement today, Google said the collaboration brings both parties together to help businesses of all sizes advance their digital competitiveness through skilling programs, investments in digital infrastructure, responsible artificial intelligence (AI), innovation and cloud-first policies. Datuk Seri Anwar said this latest commitment by Google will certainly boost the nation's digital competitiveness in line with the Madani Economy Framework and the new Industrial Master Plan 2030 NIP 2030. He said Malaysia's Madani Economic Framework aims to increase the size of Malaysia's economic pie, as well as ensure that all stakeholders, particularly the rakyat and small businesses, will enjoy the ensuing socio-economic benefits. Google said the latest initiatives are built on its investments in Malaysia over the last 12 years. In 2022 alone, the company's products and programs supported more than 47,900 jobs and also contributed directly and indirectly an estimated $2.8 billion in economic benefits to local businesses. US President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping have pledged to reduce tensions as they met for the first time in a year at a high-stakes summit in California, United States. A smiling Biden greeted Xi after the Chinese leader stepped out of a black limousine at the scenic Filoli country estate in the California foothills near San Francisco before the two leaders shook hands on the front steps. The two leaders then headed inside for painstakingly choreographed closed-door talks on issues, including Taiwan, sanctions and trade that have roiled relations between the world's largest economies. Biden opened his remarks by saying that tensions should not veer into conflict. Xi responded by saying that turning their back on each other is not an option for the superpowers. The last time Biden and Xi met in person was in Bali in November 2022, and relations nosedived after the United States shot down an alleged Chinese spy balloon in February this year. The talks, which come after months of delicate diplomatic negotiations, come against the backdrop of a long struggle for global primacy between the United States and an increasingly assertive China. The United Nations Security Council on Wednesday called for urgent and extended humanitarian pauses in fighting between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip for a sufficient number of days to allow humanitarian aid access. The 15-member council overcame an impasse, which saw 4 unsuccessful attempts to take action last month to adopt a resolution that also calls for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas. The United States, Russia and Britain, who are council veto powers, abstained from Wednesday's vote on the resolution drafted by Malta. The remaining 12 members voted in favour. Russia failed in a last-minute bid to amend the resolution to include a call for an immediate humanitarian truce, leading to a cessation of hostilities. The Council's stalemate has largely been centred on whether to call for a humanitarian pause or a ceasefire. A pause is generally considered less formal and shorter than a ceasefire, which has to be agreed by the warring parties. The United States has backed pauses, while Russia has pushed for a ceasefire. Wednesday's resolution also does not condemn the actions of Hamas, a point of contention for Israel's ally, the United States and Britain. And meanwhile, British opposition Labour leader Keir Starmer was under pressure after 56 of his lawmakers, including several of his policy team, voted with another opposition party to demand the government call for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict. The so-called amendment, a proposed addition to the government's legislative agenda for the next year, a call for a ceasefire in the violence did not pass and so will not become law. But the backing of so many Labour lawmakers showed the levels of disquiet in the party over the conflict in Gaza. Nearly a third of Labour's 198 lawmakers backed the amendment introduced by the Scottish National Party. Starmer, like Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, the United States and the European Union has called for humanitarian pauses to help aid reach Gaza rather than a ceasefire, which they claimed would allow Hamas to regroup. 8 members of Starmer's shadow ministerial team left their roles in order to defy the party position. It was a blow to Starmer, who is keen to present his party as united, disciplined and ready for power before a national election expected next year, which Labour is on target to win, according to opinion polls.
The eyes to the right, 120.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Wednesday called Israel a terror state, stepping up his condemnation of the spiraling civilian toll of its war against Hamas in Gaza. Erdogan's latest and one of the most heated verbal attacks against Israel came 2 days before he plans to make a sensitive visit to Germany for talks with Chancellor Olaf Scholz. The Turkish leader took a more nuanced line immediately after Hamas's 7 October cross-border attacks. But he stepped up the rhetoric as the scale of Israel's military response grew. Officials in the Hamas-run territory say more than 11,500 people, also mostly civilians, have been killed in Gaza. Turkey this month recalled its ambassador to Israel and broke off official contacts with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, suspending recent attempts by the sides to repair their rocky relations. Erdogan's heated rhetoric has piled pressure in Germany on Scholz, who has been forced to defend his decision to receive the Turkish leader. Defending the planned visit, which will be Erdogan's first to Germany since 2020, Scholz spokesman Stefan Herbstreit said Germany always had difficult partners whom they have to deal with. The President of the United States and 2 of his cabinet members are being sued for failing to prevent and aiding and abetting genocide in Gaza. A federal complaint filed against President Joe Biden, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin accuses them of failure to prevent and complicity in the Israeli government's unfolding genocide. New York Civil Liberties Group, the Center for Constitutional Rights, CCR, filed the suit on behalf of Palestinian human rights organizations, Palestinians in Gaza and U.S. citizens with relatives in the besieged enclave that has faced more than a month of relentless bombardment by Israel, which receives funding and weapons from the U.S. government. The CCR wrote in the introduction to its complaint that numerous Israeli government leaders have expressed clear genocidal intentions and deployed dehumanizing characterizations of Palestinians, including human animals. It said those statements of intent, when combined with the mass killing of Palestinians, reveal evidence of an unfolding crime of genocide. Numerous legal scholars, right groups and humanitarians have also called Israel's actions in Gaza genocide. And still to come, Dubai plans new mega airport by 2030 to cater to passenger surge. But before that, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has defended his controversial amnesty deal for Catalonia's separatists needed to secure another term in office. Speaking at the parliament, he said the measure was necessary to heal the wounds opened by the region's failed 2017 secession bid. In a sign of the tensions over the amnesty deal, police blocked off access to Parliament to prevent hundreds of protesters from getting close to the building. Inside, the socialist leader addressed the assembly to outline his priorities for another 4-year mandate ahead of a vote of confidence scheduled later today. Sanchez, who has been in office since 2018, is expected to be voted in with ease. His Socialist Party has reached deals with a number of small parties to ensure he has the backing of 179 legislators, 3 more than the absolute majority of 176 needed in a first vote. The Conservative Popular Party PP came first in July's general election, but was unable to cobble together a working majority in the 350-seat parliament. Bangladesh will hold a general election on 7 January. A vote opposition parties have threatened to boycott, fearing that it will be rigged. Chief Election Commissioner Habibul Awal said the 12th parliamentary election will be held in 300 seats, urging parties to hold talks to resolve the political crisis. Opposition parties said they would hold a nationwide strike starting today in protest and warned the country was being driven towards conflict. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has led the South Asian country of around 170 million people for the past 15 years and has been accused of ruling with an iron fist. She's seen as almost certain to return to power for a 4th time. Hasina has overseen impressive economic growth, but Western nations have sounded the alarm over democratic backsliding, and she has been accused by the opposition of vote rigging at the past 2 polls. Opposition parties have held major rallies calling for her to quit and for elections held by a neutral caretaker government. Hasina has since launched a crackdown, with most of the top leadership of the main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party BNP arrested, as well as thousands of its supporters. Vote counting was underway in Liberia on Wednesday, the day after a presidential runoff between football legend George Weah and ex-Vice President Joseph Boakai, with the challenger taking a narrow early lead. The balloting passed peacefully on Tuesday, with more than 2.4 million voters called to choose between incumbent Weah, 57, who is seeking a second term, and 78-year-old Boakai. Observers expect the result to be tight after the 2 candidates came roughly neck and neck in the first round vote last month. According to Chairwoman of the Electoral Commission, Davideta Brown Lansana, with results counted from 1,315 of the 5,890 polling stations across the country, Boakai was ahead with 50.7% of the votes. In the first round vote held last month, Weah led his old rival by just 7,126 votes nationally. But in 2017's presidential race, he easily beat Boakai in the second round, taking more than 61%. The Electoral Commission has 15 days from the polls to publish the results, but could do so sooner. The Electoral Commission is expected to report daily on the state of the count, which began shortly after the polling stations closed on Tuesday evening. The ancient Vietnamese city of Hue, a World Heritage Site popular with tourists, was underwater on Wednesday after heavy rain flooded thousands of homes and blocked highways. Footage on state media showed residents navigating flooded streets in boats, while homes and cars were partially submerged. Heavy rain has pounded several provinces along the coast since Monday. According to authorities, more than 2,000 people have evacuated their homes in central Quang Tri province, where 3 people are missing. Some parts of the national highway linking North and South Vietnam have also been blocked by landslides due to the flooding. Vietnam is frequently lashed by harsh weather in the rainy season between June and November. Forecasters said water levels may remain high for the next 2 days before improving this weekend. According to official figures, natural disasters including floods and landslides have left nearly 140 people dead and missing in Vietnam this year. Scientists have warned that extreme weather events globally are becoming more intense and frequent due to climate change. At least 147 Rohingya refugees, mostly women and children, landed in Indonesia's westernmost province near Aceh on Wednesday, a day after nearly 200 others came ashore in the same area. Thousands of the mostly Muslim Rohingya risk their lives each year on long and expensive sea journeys, often in flimsy boats to try to reach Malaysia or Indonesia. A local government official, Ihsan, said a wooden boat landed on a beach in Bate sub-district in Aceh province's PD region at around 5:10 p.m. local time. It is not clear how long their boat was at sea or where it came from, but many Rohingya often make the arduous journey from refugee camps in Bangladesh. It was reported that some of those who arrived were weak and ill, including hungry children. UNHCR Indonesia's spokeswoman Mitra Salima Suryono said the agency could not confirm a headcount on the latest arrival but was working with local authorities to ensure their safety. The new landing takes the total Rohingya landings in Aceh for the past 48 hours to 343 after 196 arrived in the PD region on Tuesday. According to the UN Refugee Agency, more than 2,000 Rohingya are believed to have attempted to risk journey to Southeast Asian countries in 2022. And on a lighter note, Dubai is forging ahead with plans to replace the world's busiest airport with an even bigger one as passenger traffic recovers to outstrip pre-pandemic levels. Dubai Airport CEO Paul Griffiths said designs were being drawn up for Al Maktoum International Airport, which will be built on the city's outskirts and should replace Dubai International in the 2030s.
And once we've reached about 120 million, which is what we think our total capacity at DXB is at the absolute maximum with everything optimized, we are going to need a new airport. That is going to have to happen at some stage during the 2030s. We're going to be working on those designs over the next few months.
He was speaking at the Dubai Air Show in the United Arab Emirates, where airlines have invested heavily in new planes. Last year, neighboring Saudi Arabia announced plans for a major new air hub in Riyadh. Griffiths was speaking as new figures forecast 86.9 million passengers at Dubai International this year, surpassing 219 traffic and underlining the recovery from the pandemic. Third quarter traffic was 22.9 million, the highest since 2019, taking 2023 numbers so far to 64.5 million, nearly 40% higher than the same period in 2022. Flying taxis have been a sci-fi fixture for decades, but one operator says they are finally close to reality, first in the United States and then the United Arab Emirates and India.
What you see behind me is Archer's Midnight aircraft. It is designed for one pilot and 4 passengers plus carry-on bags. It has a carrying capacity of up to 1,000 pounds. It can fly up to 100 miles at 150 miles per hour.
Reports of futuristic aircraft ferrying passengers over cities and their car-choked roads have been cropping up for years, evoking images of 1960s cartoon the Jetsons. Yet regulatory approval from the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration for Archer's Midnight, a 4-passenger, electric-powered vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, is expected as soon as 2025. UAE flights are expected to start in 2026 on 2 initial routes from Dubai Airport to the upmarket Palm development and Abu Dhabi Airport to the city centre, Corniche. And in sports, Harimau Malaya aim for perfect start against Kyrgyzstan. Stay with us. The Harimau Malaya are hoping for a perfect start by winning against Kyrgyzstan in the second round of the 2026 World Cup 2027 Asian Cup qualifiers Group D opener at the National Stadium in Bukit Jalil tonight. The national team's head coach Kim Panggon said Malaysia, who are ranked 137th in the world, will hunt for 3 points in every match in the qualifying campaign, including against the White Falcons, who are a higher ranked team in 97th spot. The 54-year-old Korean said the 3 points in the first match are important in the team's mission to create history and qualify for the third round of qualification.
This is our home, Whoever come here, environment, must be make them scared. Make them scared. So 10,000, we cannot make them scared. I think hopefully, everybody come to fight together.
Commenting further, Panggon said his team's objective is to pass the second round of qualification and become one of the top 18 teams to qualify for the third round. He said that some parties might laugh at the mission given Malaysia's current position as the 24th best team in Asia, but he was optimistic that his charges would be able to succeed. If successful, it will be history for Malaysia in making their way to the World Cup after often being stranded in the second round of qualification in previous attempts. Meanwhile, Kyrgyzstan head coach Stefan Tarkovic said his team has already figured out ways to overcome the away match pressure to get a positive result against Malaysia in the Group D opener tonight. Tarkovic said he realizes tonight's clash is an important match for both teams in the hunt for a place in the third round, and Malaysia have the advantage of playing at home. However, Tarkovic is optimistic that the White Falcons can emerge as the better side today if his players adapt quickly and give full focus to implementing the tactics of the game.
The pressure, but the game like tomorrow games under the I don't know how many fans with a good atmosphere. This is something what is very important for the coaches, what is very important for the players to promote on this audience. So. For me, pressure is normal and I can face this pressure.
According to the 50-year-old Slovak, his team went through a rigorous preparation phase, including adapting to the weather conditions in Malaysia since arrival last Thursday. In the meantime, commenting on Malaysia, he believes the Harimau Malaya squad, led by South Korean Panggon, are a good team and have shown positive improvement since last year. Ahead of tonight's clash, the meeting record is in Kyrgyzstan's favour after winning 1-0 in an international friendly in Malacca in 2018. In English football, Manchester United CEO Richard Arnold will step down ahead of the club's reported stake sale to British billionaire Jim Ratcliffe. According to the Premier League club general counsel and board director Patrick Stewart, who has been with United for over 17 years, will become interim CEO, allowing the club's future owners to take time to identify a new long-term CEO. The English club's future ownership remained uncertain after the American Glazer family last year said they were looking at options for the 20-time English champions, including a new investment or a potential sale. It was reported in October that Ratcliffe would pay more than $1.5 billion for a 25% stake in United, and his bid for the iconic soccer club would be accepted by the Glazer family that controls it. The Glazers have not reached a deal with Ratcliffe, but one is expected to be finalized between the two sides in the coming weeks. tasked with reviving the club's fortunes. Arnold, in April last year, brought on team manager Erik ten Hag, who has also come under intense pressure in recent months because of the club's lackluster performance on the field. Under Arnold's leadership, United posted record revenues and bagged a couple of major sponsorship deals, including a $1.1 billion Adidas kit deal for 10 more years in August. And in tennis, Spain's Carlos Alcaraz got back on track at the ATP Finals with victory over tormented Andrei Rublev on Wednesday, easing to a 7-5, 6-2 to revive his hopes in red group. World number 2 Alcaraz suffered an opening round-robin defeat by Alexander Zverev, but responded with a confident display, albeit against an unravelling Russian. Rublev managed to hang on in the first set but wavered at 5-all when he dropped his serve, Alcaraz then claiming the opening set with a comfortable hold. Things deteriorated rapidly for Rublev when he dropped serve at the start of the second set. He slammed down his racket after handing Alcaraz a break point, and when he then blazed a shot wide, he repeatedly smashed his racket into his leg. The Turin crowd gasped, and an emotional Rublev had to wipe blood off his knee during the changeover. Alcaraz took complete control after that, with Rublev seemingly playing against the Spaniard and himself. The contest reached its predictable conclusion in little more than an hour. Still in tennis, Daniil Medvedev became the first player through to the semi-finals of the ATP Finals with a 7-6, 6-4 win over Germany's Alexander Zverev. Zverev has won the title twice in 2018 and also 2021, but is in danger of missing out on a semi-final spot and will be kicking himself after some costly errors against the Russian. He led 4-1 in the opening set tiebreak and missed the volley. Then he had a set point, but misfired a forehand into the bottom of the net to let Medvedev off the hook. Medvedev, champion in London 2020, then... That concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, UN Security Council adopts resolution calling for urgent humanitarian pauses and corridors in Gaza. Till then, I'm Brendan Lepal. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.